If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema you can get yourself a 5% discount.
So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. In today's video guys, I've got some 422 custom tactics and player instructions for you. Just before we get into the video though, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and things like that. And obviously subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on those notifications so you are notified when videos are posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics, as always guys, I like to use a balanced defensive style. The reason for this is it gives you the greatest control when you are defending. If you use pressure tactics, sometimes you lose a bit of control, and to be honest, I think pressure tactics are a little bit scummy to use, I'll be honest with you. I do prefer using balanced all round. If you can master balanced, I do think you will become a better player, but if you do want to use the pressure tactics, that's completely up to you. I do suggest balance though guys. Now for defensive width, I use 44. The reason for this is people do like to play very narrow in this game, but I've noticed as of recent people do like to go down the wings just a little bit more than they did because of how like fast players work now and things like that. So I have got this on 44, so we do primarily defend in a narrow way, but we do have extra coverage of the wings when we do need it, so it does work very well. Now moving on to the depth, I have this just one above 50. The reason for this is I've noticed even though it's hard to defend through balls with a higher defensive line, sitting back too deep is also not very fun, and it can be very difficult to get out sometimes. So I do like having my depth on 51, so we do have like a low enough depth to stop the through balls, but we're not always just sitting back too far, and we can get up the pitch a little bit easier. It's just something I'm experimenting with, but I've been really enjoying it. But if you guys want to lower this or up this, that's completely up to you guys. Now for offensive tactics guys, for build up play, I like to use balance. The reason for this is it does give you the greatest control when you are building up the play. When you use something like fast build up, sometimes your players can move too quick for your own good, and sometimes it will overcommit your team when you are building up. So if you do get turned over, it's very difficult to defend a counter attack because all of your players are running up the field. So having it on balance just gives you the greatest balance that you need, especially with how people play online. So balance is just the best, I think. But if you want to use fast build up or anything like that, it's completely up to you guys. Now for chance creation, as always guys, direct passing is an absolute must, especially on the new version of the game, the PS5 version, the next gen version. But if you're on PS4 or you know the old gen, you can just use something like balance. But if you are on new gen, you really do need to use direct passing because it's the only one where you get the proper movement out of your attackers to break down the very strong defensive AI. If you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see your players are constantly moving around to break through the defensive line, and that is very, very important in this game. Now moving on to attacking width guys, I like to have this on 47. The reason for this is the 4-2-2 is a narrow formation, but it does have a bit of width to it with the two cams and the two strikers, and at some points it can look a bit like a 4-2-4, so we do want to make the most of that, but we don't want it to be too wide at the same time. So we have this on 47, so we do still play quite narrow, but we also have that width that this formation does offer. Now moving on to players in box guys, I like to have this on 6. This one's down to preference really, but I have it on 6 so I can get a few players into the box, but I don't overcommit my team, so we don't get counter-attacked as easily. So I have this on 6, but if you want to lower this or up this, that is completely up to you. Corners and free kicks are also down to preference. I have them on 2 for a similar reason to players in box. I do like having some players in the box, so I do have options, but I don't like to overcommit my team. So 2 seems to be very balanced for me, but if you want to up it or lower it, that's completely up to you guys. Now moving on to the players you want to use, because it is a 2-striker formation, you do have a bit of freedom when it comes to the strikers, as there are obviously 2 of them. I'm kind of just using, you know, a mixture of different types of strikers at the moment. I'm using Di Maria and Keane. Keane is like the out and out clinical striker. Di Maria is a bit more of a technical player, so I'm going for a bit of a dynamic in the striker positions. But if you guys want to use 2 lengthy players or 2 explosive players, players, that's completely up to you. So you do have a lot of freedom in the striker positions. It's not always the case when you have a one striker formation, because you have to compensate for the fact there is only one of them, but in a two striker formation you can pretty much use whoever you want to. Now for the cams, I do suggest, if you can possibly, get a player with a high defensive work rate and a high attacking work rate. This is because you're going to see in the instructions it actually works very well for the team shape. So if you can get a high in one of these positions, so someone like Phil Foden, that's absolutely fine and it's great, but if you can't, it's not, you know, it's not that important. So Chiesa's like a high medium, but you do need technical players in these positions anyway. You do need players with a bit of pace, players that can turn, you know, players that can do a bit of everything, because these are your main creative players in this formation. Now moving on to the CDMs, guys, I suggest using one more box-to-box style player. So I'm using Park Ji-sung in the right CDM position. This is a player with a high work rate, which is very important for this role, and they do have very balanced stats. So Park Ji-sung's got, you know, pretty much 80 above in everything, so that is very important for this box-to-box style player. The other CDM is a more defensive player, so, you know, like a Patrick Vieira, Danilo Pereira, Palinha, you know, those types of players that will stay back, players that will not contribute too much to your attack because you don't need them to. The ideal work rate for this position is a medium-high, but if you have like a medium and a player with very good defensive stats, so for example this version of Patrick Vieira is a medium, if you do have like decent stats anyway, it doesn't really matter, but medium-high is the best work rate you can get for a defensive CDM. Now for the fullbacks, guys, I suggest going for a bit of a balance, so I'm using Hernandez and Walker. Hernandez is a bit better on the ball and Walker is a bit more of a defensive fullback. I like going for that balance, but you can go for two defensive fullbacks, two attacking fullbacks if you want to. I just like going for a bit of a balance there. Now for the centre backs and goalkeeper, guys, these aren't really specific. You just want them to be as meta as possible, and yeah, I'm only really using Chesney for chemistry, but yeah, you can pretty much use whoever you want in these positions. And yeah, let's move on to the player instructions, guys. So for the player instructions, guys, on both strikers I suggest stay central and get in behind. The reason we have them on stay central is because we don't need them drifting off to the wings. We've already got our cams to cover those wider positions, so we need them to stay in the central areas to finish off the chances when they need to do so. So if we have them on stay central, they're always in the correct positions. And then we have them on get in behind because this means they will make the best attacking runs. It doesn't always mean you have to play the ball over the top or in behind. It just means they make the initial movement, so you actually get a bit of AI out of your players. If you have them on mixed attack, sometimes they don't really move, so having them on getting behind means they will make the initial run, and let's say you want to cancel that run and make them play it short, you could tap R1 and it would bait the defender into thinking they're running in behind, and then they will come short for a pass and it will be completely open. So it does work really well. I like to have that on the two strikers. Now for both cams, guys, I suggest get into the box for cross, and on the right cam I actually have free roam. So I'm going to explain this now. Both cams do need to be on get into the box for cross because it's the only way that they will actually get involved in the attacks when you are in the box. Otherwise they will stand very static on the edge of the box. So having them on get into the box for cross means they will transition into the penalty box. Doesn't mean you have to cross them the ball. You could even play like a ground pass. It just means they will make those runs to get into the box. Otherwise they're very passive and they don't really get involved. Now on the right cam, like I said, I have free roam. This is because Chiesa's like my most creative player in the team other than like Di Maria. So having him on free roam just gives him a bit more freedom in attack, and it can make it a bit more unpredictable for your opponent. So, you know, they sit in different positions, they make different movements, that kind of thing. I like having one player on free roam for that reason. It just switches it up a little bit. But if you want to have them on normal stick to position, that's fine. So both cams get into the box for cross, and on one more technical player I suggest free roam, but it's not like something you have to do. And yeah, moving on to the CDMs, guys, the right CDM, the box to box CDM, the one with like the high work rate, I suggest just completely leaving them on balanced settings and then just putting them on cover center. So the reason for this is we need them to attack, we need them to defend, and we need them to cover the center. You know, we don't need them to cover the wing areas because like on the right hand side, for example, I've already got Chiesa and Walker there. I don't need another player there. I need this player player to cover the middle because there's no one else doing that really. So have him on cover center and then leave everything else alone because he's going to do a bit of everything, which is why I said the high work rate is important. Now moving on to the left CDM, the more defensive CDM, we have cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover center. The reason we have him on cut passing lanes is because it helps break up the play. It annoys your opponent because they're always cutting out those passes, so it does work very well. Stay back while attacking because we don't need them to attack. This is a defensive player. Their sole purpose is to defend in this team, so we don't need them to go forward. And we have him on cover center for the same reason as Park Ji-sung. We don't need him to cover the wing areas. We need him to cover those central areas where a lot of people are going to play the ball through. Now moving on to the fullbacks. For the more attacking fullback, I have balanced attack and overlap. The reason we have overlap is because it does give extra width in the formation. If we leave him on balanced run types, sometimes he'll underlap and we don't really utilize the fullbacks to the best potential. The best way to use the fullbacks is to have them overlapping and really stretching out your opponent. So yeah, balanced attack and overlap on the more attacking player. And then on the other one, we have stay back while attacking and overlap. So we don't want this player to go forward because they're not as good going forward. And we have him on overlap because, again, if we do trigger him to run forward, we want him to overlap instead of underlap. But, you know, this all depends on which type of fullbacks you use. If you use two defensive fullbacks, you can have them both on stay back while attacking. If you have two attacking fullbacks, you can have them both on balanced attack. So it's completely up to the players you use. And yeah, that is the custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2, guys. If you have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will catch you all later. Peace.